was another cataclysm about the time of Tower of Babel, when man was scattered and there was a catastrophic. At first I didn't believe that, but I began to realize that there was an asteroid associated with that too, because I began to do research for my book, and I became convinced that an asteroid shower did have something to do with that. We got a hummingbird here. There's a feeder right over here. They come and go all the time. It's a dinosaur. If you believe that's a dinosaur, you should have your head examined. Because I say that any paleontologist that can't recognize the difference between a dinosaur and a bird, we're in big trouble. Because birds and dinosaurs are entirely different structures. They have a different breathing ability. They have the ability to fly. Of course, you're going to tell me, oh yeah, well, but they found feathered dinosaurs. Actually, they only find feathered dinosaurs in reconstructed drawings and misidentified terrestrial birds. Now, they have found some dinosaurs with spicules, which they claim are proto-feathers, but nobody's ever proven that those are proto-feathers. And furthermore, a scale cannot turn into a feather. That requires extreme design, because it has to be aerodynamic. Do you really believe that an airplane, an aerodynamic airplane, could just form by some natural process, just happen without a designer? Of course not. Of course, you could say, well, maybe God used evolution to create. Well, in that case, your God is, you shrunk your God down to the size of not even a normal-sized man, more like a man with a brain the size of a peanut. Because God doesn't need to use millions of years. He created time. He doesn't have to take millions of years to do anything. Creation week could have been done instantly, or no time at all. Just poof, it was there. Billionth of a second. But you can't even measure it because it's really not a second. It just was there. If you don't believe that, then your God must be awfully small. Very incompetent. And what you're saying, if you say that God used evolution to create, then you're saying he used trial and error. In that case, he's not omnipotent, he's not omniscient, he's not all-knowing, he's not everywhere at once, he does not have the ability to create. He has to use things and have them develop. The kitty cat wants out. If I get a little mixed up or something, and get off sidetracked, and I often do, because I think of something as I'm talking, and then I think of something and I get off on another channel, because I feel it's important, because I'm thinking about it at the time, and if I don't bring it up, then I'll forget. And I'll say, oh my goodness, I didn't finish that statement. And so I missed something there. So I hope you don't mind that I kind of change subjects. Hi, kitty. She likes to sit in that recliner back there. She doesn't like it when it's windy or when it's cold or rainy. But she does like a fairly nice day like we've got right now. It is overcast, but it's cool this morning. So where were we? You what? Oh, it's too bad you can't respond. Uh-oh. Got a yellow jacket here. He's going after my orange juice. Those guys can be really... Oh, it's a bee. Hi, bee. How are you? Come on. Bees are very good, and they're very important. You see, if you didn't have bees, there's a lot of things, a lot of plants would die because they require bees to fertilize them. That brings up an idea right there. You know, bees are our friends, and they make honey too. And honey is one of the best foods that you can eat. They say the Amazons, these warrior women, used to eat honey. Did you know that California was named for some Amazons? It's part of a legend. They say they lived on an island. There are islands out there, and some of those islands actually had some of the mammoths, mastodons. I think it was a mammoth. Oh, there's a mammoth. It's a pygmy mammoth. Was one of the last ones to become extinct, and that was in historical times. And they have found fossils out on Santa Rosa. But anyway, that's off the subject. My mind, deals with so many different things. I don't talk about just one thing. Well, for example, I know one person who I talked to yesterday, and he told me, he said there's two subjects he won't talk about. He just wants to talk about light things, like rock and roll, and he loves all the oldies, 50s, 60s, 70s, so do I. And I sing a lot of those songs too. People have told me that I sing, I sound just like the original singer on some songs. Like Secret Agent Man, Johnny Rivers, and Bobby B, Bobby Sherman, David Cassidy, Peter Noon. Oh, that's Herman's Hermits. Love those songs. I know some people are Christian and they say, you should only listen to religious songs. Well, I'm sorry. I like the music. I know, but I believe that a person needs to be discerning and know what's wrong with those songs, even some of them that you like, especially the words, the meanings behind them, not to mention the subliminals. But obviously, if they are brainwashing people, brainwashing runs off me like water off a duck's back. Yeah, I went through school and they taught me anthropology. Had pictures on the wall. Ape men. And I was wondering, how could they find fossils of these things if they don't exist? Now, I didn't believe they existed, but it did puzzle me how they can have fossils. Well, that wasn't until I did some research, which I research everything, and I realized, I looked at one of the skulls and I said, I'll be darned. That hominid skull is a chimpanzee. It's an extinct chimpanzee. And what is Gigantopithecus? Obviously. Put it right next to a gorilla skull. Tell me what it is. They've created a lot of hoaxes. Like the Piltdown Man. Now that was a deliberate hoax. And they say they don't know who did it, but there's one person who had the qualifications, the ability, and the motive. And that was Teilhard de Chardin, the Jesuit. Not only that, he was writing, he was a pioneer in New Age religion, trying to bring Christianity and paganism together, or the occult, spiritism, which is witchcraft, which is some of it doesn't always include it, but it could involve Satanism. Actually, witchcraft is actually, a lot of witches will tell you, well, I'm a member of Wicca, and we're just naturists. Well, that may be true. In fact, a lot of secret societies are really just a front for social club. But the real core of it is Satanism and the conspiracy to set up the New World Order. That's what it's all about. And a lot of these societies are just fronts for that. So that people will say, oh, we're not a conspiracy. No, they probably aren't. But these societies are fronts for a conspiracy. All kinds of subjects I could discuss. I give a little bit of information here and there. But as I said, I finally got it all together and wrote a book on Mysteries of History Revealed. And as I said, I had over 500 pages, and the publisher wouldn't accept more than 250 per book. So I divided it into two, and the first one goes into, I think I'm getting back to a while back what I was talking about, where I was talking about paleontology, geology, history, and the Nephilim, and that's where I got off on another subject, the history of the Nephilim. Now, many creation scientists don't seem to realize the importance of the Nephilim. They are very important, but most of these ICR, CRS, and others don't want to be controversial. You see, the fact that they support creation is controversial enough, so they figure on, gee, I don't want to bring up another subject that's even more controversial. And like this guy that I talked to yesterday, he says he wants to start a kind of a television show just like this. But he wants to discuss rock and roll and music and jokes and, whatever. All irrelevant, all unimportant. For me, I always look for meaning. I look for something that will help people learn something that they don't know, or maybe even don't want to know, but they should know. And hopefully some people will listen and realize there's a point to this. There's something to this. This is not, as some evolutionists and agnostics and what do you call them, liberals, say, oh, I had them say to me, you're stupid, ridiculous, and why don't you take a class in science? And I told them, I have. I studied geology in school, and I studied archaeology, and I love those subjects. And I've been a member of a geologic society, archaeological society, paleontological society. I've been a member of the Paleontological Society for let's see, since '84. Although I dropped out of it for 2-3 years because after my wife died, I didn't feel like doing much of anything. But then, recently, in the last 2 years, I have gotten back into it, and I'm actively doing as much fossil hunting and artifact hunting. I like to research any kind of mystery. And I was pretty expert in paleontology and meteorites, and UFOs, because I knew that UFOs were a very important subject, especially to those who believe the Bible, and you realize what these things are. They're not extraterrestrials. And then along came this ancient astronaut theory, which is another way of humanists, atheists, trying to explain away the existence of paranormal beings. They try to convince people. The atheists totally ignore it. They just say, oh, this is just unscientific nonsense. So they won't deal with it. They say there are no such things as ghosts. But it's not true. They're right, they're not ghosts. They're evil spirits. They're, right now, it's very hard to know very much about angelology or demonology to know exactly what these beings really are. But in my research, I've come to the conclusion, and in my magazine, biblicalsciencenews.blogspot.com, I deal with all these subjects. Anything that I find fascinating, interesting, important, and so I deal with it, and I research it. I look up all the information I can from both sides. You know, those are pro, those are opposed. And if you look up negative things, you'll find a lot more than they will tell you flat out. If you look up Obama, you'll probably hear all kinds of great things about him. But if you look up Obama Hitler, or Obama Satanist, Obama Antichrist, or something like that, and you'll learn a lot. And these are not just people attacking Obama. These are people that give information, things that are solid evidence, that show that there are Satan's agents out there, and they are working to create the New World Order under the Antichrist. And I try to keep reminding people that. What's wrong with our country? Why did people vote for Trump? Actually, it's a mystery to me, because the election of Trump is a miracle. But I think he's holding back the forces of evil. A lot of people don't like him, and the evil forces have done everything they can to discredit him. Now, he's not a perfect man. Who is? If you dig deep enough, you can find fault with anyone. Especially when you know, Trump got caught by an agent. He's a relative. He was talking to a friend of his who is a family member of the Bush family. But the Bush family are satanic. And I think that he tricked Trump into saying things, you know, locker room talk. Now, we Christians, of course, don't approve of that. But many of you, even though you call yourself a Christian, will find that there are times that you may have dealt in locker room talk. Now, many of us have not. I know there's some people who are very faithful and very good, but there are others who are not. And then there's also people who go from an evil nature, especially when you're young, and then you get older and you begin to, and you learn the Bible and you learn the truth and you want to do what's right, and then you change. You say, how could I have done that? Why did I steal that candy bar? Or why did I kill those ants? Why did I do that? That's terrible. When I walk down the street, I'm always very careful not to step on an ant, because they're living things. They think. They have feelings, I believe. I've seen ants that showed they had feelings. And I know that dogs and cats do, and animals, because they're just as intelligent as humans. The only difference is man is created in the image of God, and that makes a big difference, because man has a creative ability that animals do not. You see, animals don't build or invent or discover new things. But that doesn't mean they're stupid, and that doesn't mean that they don't have feelings. And of course, also, they can't communicate. They can't talk to you. But if you really pay attention, they do talk to you. I mean, they can look at you and you know what they're saying. I want my food. Or I'm not feeling good. I remember in a store, it just makes me so mad, where I saw a lady with her daughter, and she was looking at the cat food and trying to decide what to get. And the little girl said, "Oh, just get some, it's just a cat." I could have wrung her neck. Glad I'm not her cat. That's the way of evil people. A Christian loves their animals and takes care of them right, and they're very careful to take care of them, because if you were in their position, you'd want them to take good care of you, right? Do unto others as you'd have them do unto you, and that includes animals. That includes insects. Now, that doesn't mean that when ants invade your house, or spiders or something, that you shouldn't kill them. Now, if you can do it without killing them, great. I mean, I do that all the time. I will capture a moth or a bee or even a hummingbird that flies in the house, and I'll put them out. Even a little moth, I try to save them, because I care about them. And that's the way we should be. So, but that doesn't mean you don't defend yourself against an animal that attacks you. And that goes the same thing for people when they attack you. If someone attacks you, you defend yourself. But you don't go out of your way to hurt them. And you never do anything out of vengeance. Only self-defense. The Bible only allows self-defense. Now, a lot of you atheists and agnostics are going to say, yeah, but God said, kill the Philistines, wipe them out, kill their men, women, children, and animals, and destroy everything they've got, destroy their idols. So that's terrible. But there's one thing that theologians forget. Too many of them are liberals. They're not true Christians. And I think many ministers are actually satanic. They're misleading people. But I mean, many of them are Masons, and some of them are Jesuits in Protestant churches. And they are there to undermine and to falsify. And, lose my train of thought. And they say, well, isn't that terrible that they killed all those Philistines? But you don't realize, you don't think about this, the Philistines were taking their children and burning them alive. That's murder. You don't think that they should be tried for murder? Besides that, the main thing that theologians are lying to people, or they're ignorant, is the Nephilim. The Philistines were descendants of the fallen angels. They were not entirely human. They were called hybrids, and they have bloodlines that have genetics that are different from true humans. And those Philistines, the Jews did not kill them all as God ordered. And he was very angry about that. And then Abraham married one that had Nephilim bloodlines. That was Hagar. Produce offspring now that hate Israel and want to destroy them. That's why God said, kill them all, because they were a disease that Satan had planted, and its main purpose was not only to destroy Israel, but also to contaminate the bloodline of Jesus, so that Jesus would be part Nephilim, and that would make him the Antichrist. and then Satan could possess him. And so that was why Jesus did not come through the lineage of Solomon. Solomon had wives that were part Nephilim. Not all Nephilim were giants. And these lineage of the Nephilim are still with us today, causing trouble in the world, and they consist of many of these countries that are attacking Israel and attacking America. These are, many of these are of Nephilim bloodlines. That does not mean that they cannot be saved, because they're still part human. But God wanted to cleanse the earth, and that was why he had the flood in the first place, to kill off the Nephilim. And that way, but when the flood came, he saved Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Ham, his descendants, led to Nimrod and Semiramis of Babel, and they once again had offspring by fallen angels, because the Bible says it happened before the flood, and he wiped them out. That's where they believe the demonic spirits come from, because, you see, God hadn't hadn't judged them yet. So they became wandering spirits. They weren't humans, so they didn't go to, there was no hell. They became wandering spirits, and they're with us today, looking for bodies to possess, so that they can do their devilment. That's where a lot of these mass murders are coming from. They are being brainwashed, with altered drugs, producing altered states, causing them to be under the influence of demons and causing mass murders in order to help Obama and others to bring in gun control and disarm honest citizens. And that's what Hitler did. He was a Nephilim. He was an Ashkenazi Jew, which means he was part Gentile, which mixed with the Nephilim bloodlines. But there are some Jews that are pure blood, and they are a minority. They're called the Sephardic. They're the ones that follow the Torah, while the others, the Ashkenazi, they follow the Talmud, which is man's words, twisting God's words. And then these were the Pharisees, and I think there was other cults. There were other cults. And one of the Pharisees was the founder of the Roman Church, and that was Simon Magus. I think it came to Peter and wanted the power to cast out spirits in Jesus' name. And Peter told him to go to hell because his heart wasn't right, especially when he offered to pay him for it. Money is the root of all, the love of money is the root of all evil. And of course, Peter didn't accept it. But he went on to found the Roman Church, which evolved into and he, by the way, I did some research and I found his name, and I looked it up and I found, yes, that was Simon the sorcerer. He was a Pharisee, and he was the one who founded the Roman Church, which became Catholicism. So Catholicism is actually an offshoot of Judaism. And I was shocked when I discovered that Judaism is a false religion. I said, what? I've never heard that. I've never heard Protestant churches tell us that. Probably politically incorrect, right? But you see, that's the thing. it's an extension of the mysteries of Isis. It's been with us all along. The leaders of this are descendants of the Nephilim. Today we call them the Illuminati, or the founders and orchestrators of the New World Order. And the religious side of it, the false prophet, mainly led by Jesuits, is the New Age religion, which is occultism that was brought together by Aleister Crowley in Pasadena. He started a secret society which incorporated all satanic religions, just like Albert Pike did. And then if you go back, Nimrod at Babel. This has been going on all through history. Well, I can't think of anything else that I should say. This is mostly a kind of a test film to see if it works and to see if I can handle it. I like the ability to be able to talk on camera, like I'm talking right to you. Like we're right here, relaxing, enjoying the sun. That is, by the way, you hear that, I always say that it sounds like that bird is saying, vampires stink, vampires stink. That's what he sounds like he's saying. You hear him all day long. But those are a ring-necked Eurasian dove. There's two of them. That's also that same dove. They're entirely different from the, the mourning dove. Entirely different. But creationists say that they came from a common ancestor. And that came from evolutionists, told them that. There's no evidence that they had a common ancestor. Because you hear that, vampires stink. Well, doves, mourning doves, do not do that. They sound more like they're mourning, but they don't sound like that at all. And I've noticed differences like differences in ants. There's no connection between a red ant and a small brown ant. Small brown ants will attack the fire ants, bite their legs and sting them and completely destroy an anthill. Now, how in the world would they produce offspring or come from a common ancestor? I say no. Different varieties of ants, and there's many, many different kinds of ants. I wrote an article on that on Biblical Science News. .blogspot.com, and you'll see there where I talk about that and other things like palm trees. There's different types of palm trees. You can't see it, but it's over there. And the fan palm and the long palm and then the date palm. Entirely different. They didn't come from a common ancestor. Besides that, I found fossils of them over here in Orange County in the Miocene. Now, Miocene is a post-flood deposition at the time of Peleg, probably somewhere around 2000 BC. The flood itself was 2347 BC and ended in 2348 BC. It was a year long. And there were several impacts for months before the water finally covered everything. And all the deposition that you see in the fossil record was all formed during those first few months, maybe 2-3 months into the flood. I think I've probably recorded enough right now to make a program out of it. And I know a lot of you won't believe me, or maybe you won't like what I said, but I know what I say is very controversial, and I get people insulting me. Usually they don't disprove what I say, they just call me names and say I'm ignorant and stupid, and you made this up, and no, I didn't make it up. Actually, everything I've told you that I have found is a discovery, not something I made up. It's something that I found evidence for. And sometimes I was surprised. There were even some things that that I didn't believe at first, you know, like adaptation, microevolution. I used to believe that along with the other creationists, but now I'm trying to convince them that's false. We've been wrong. So, of course, anything I said, you can check it out. Just go on the internet, put in some keywords. That's what I do. And then I discover things. And then that leads to something else, to something else. Just no end to it. And then it all fits together like a picture puzzle. And when it does, you know it's true. When you find something here and it doesn't fit this and it doesn't fit that, and you know there's something wrong. It's like a liar, you know. Part of what he says sounds true. Part of what he says isn't true. Satan loves half-truths. He never lies straight out. It's always a half-truth. Like what he said to Eve, for example. He said, yeah, didn't God say you could eat of all the trees? Yeah, except for one. See, that was partly true. The subject comes up, of course, they always picture a snake hanging down, you know, like these bathtub arks. They show Noah's Ark and it looks like something in a bathtub. That is a lie, and that's a sin to show things like that, because that convinces kids that it's a myth. And that's exactly what they want to do. These satanic agents in our churches are undermining the truth by things like that. Showing a giraffe sticking his head out of a window or something, and other things, and it looks like it's going to sink because of all those animals. That is stupid. That isn't what it looked like at all. That was the most seaworthy vessel you could imagine. And they were all inside. There were no windows. And besides that, they didn't bring full-size giraffe or full-size dinosaurs on the ark. They brought juveniles, ones that were just ready to reproduce. Mature, but not completely mature. And then they show this tree in the garden with a snake. It wasn't a snake. The evidence to me looks more like a sauropod dinosaur. And in those days, you see, they hadn't fallen yet. I believe that they could talk to the animals or communicate with them. And that was why, you notice, Eve wasn't surprised when this reptile spoke to her. But, you see, it was Satan that possessed that animal. And dinosaurs and snakes became a symbol of Satan all through history. It also represents the sun god in a circle 666. That's the magic square, or the solar magic square, which is symbolic of Baal, the sun god. And that symbol came from ancient Egypt. You see, that was their calendar. That was their zodiac, and they, of course, were worshippers of astrology. And they had 3 decans in each one. You see, you have 24 months. Kitty's enjoying herself, scratching away, right? Yeah. Stared at me. And there were, you see, so there's 36. Now, if you take 36 across the bottom, start making a square. Then 35, 34, 30, all the way up to 1, and add all of them up. It's 666. It can also be turned into a magic square, which is a square, and it has numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it's all dotted around. That's called a magic square. And if you add all the numbers up in one angle, or add them up in the other way, or add them up this way or that way, or backwards, doesn't matter, or up or down, it all adds up to 111. But if you add them all together, it's 666. called a magic square, and that was symbolism that came from ancient Egypt, Nephilim lineage. And that's where the Masons claim they are descendants of the Egyptians. And they're the descendants of Solomon, who, by the way, had Nephilim offspring. And that's why Jesus came through Nathaniel, another son of David, who stayed away from the Gentiles. God told him not to intermarry with the Gentiles because of this Nephilim genetic bloodline contamination, which today we call the French rulers or Merovingians. Now, I'm of that bloodline. I don't know exactly how I'm related, but I do know I am related to the kings and queens of Europe, as well as the presidents of the United States, and most famous people are all related through the Merovingian French royalty. And they often have rare bloodlines, such as AB negative, which is the rarest blood type. Obama has that blood type. He has the same ancestors I do, like Mary Queen of Scots, King James. Now, King James was a good man. He believed in the Bible, and his translators were extremely careful to make sure that what they translated was accurate. Versions are not accurate. They're just paraphrases. And that's where you get into trouble, because the Bible is based on geometry. Every letter has a meaning. Every word has a meaning. And when you change a word, it has a different meaning. And that's exactly what these versions do. And so you lose all the symbolism and all the, because you see there's codes and things hidden in the Bible which prove that they could only be written by an omnipotent creator. They could not be produced by man. Even a computer couldn't reproduce the geometric puzzle. In other words, there's meanings in the letters, even at all angles. There's an infinity of hidden codes in the Bible. And that's why it's a living thing. It's not just ordinary. It's not an ordinary book. It's a code. Carl Sagan was saying he was looking for a code. And he said that this code would probably be based on geometry or mathematics. He was absolutely correct. And that message from outer space is not from aliens, it's from God. And it's in the original Greek and Hebrew original Bibles. Now, a lot of people discredit that, and they say, well, you see, this is an older Bible, so it's more accurate. No, actually, the younger one is more accurate. The older one is not accurate, because there were people all through history who tried to twist the scriptures in any way they could. Many of them were called Gnostics, or Druids, or Shaman, or whatever of this mysteries of Isis. We're trying to change God's Word. And then it also changes the symbolism codes as well. Well, I think I'll let you go now. The sun is going to be going down soon. Well, I hope you got something from it. And I like to get all this across because I know I've learned so much that people need to know. There are people out there that know this. I'm not the only one. None of this is new. This is all facts that have been discovered by other people. And I always look for information which supports whether this is true or not. And it's fascinating. Anyway, look up my blog site, my website. I also have my book online, and I'm selling 2 books. Just look up Amazon Books, Look for Auldaney, Auldaney, and biblicalsciencenews.blogspot.com. And you'll find a lot of fascinating information. I've discovered almost every kind of fossil you can imagine. From dinosaurs to mammals to ferns to leaves to whale bone, whale vertebra. I have some right over here from Bakersfield, Shark Tooth Hill. That's a post-flood site, though. Anything in the Cenozoic is post-flood or tertiary, or everything after the Mesozoic is post-flood. I didn't used to believe that, but researching for my book, I found that it is true. Kitty can't sit on her. The pad that was on there, the wind blew it away. See you next time.